Alrighty everybody, here we go. Welcome back to Raid Shadow Legends with me, Mr. Acid. And just completed the new player tournament and managed to get first place. So I picked up another blue shard, ancient shard, yeah. Check it here just in case, because every now and again you can buy one too. So that's completed, and also completed the first set of missions. Can keep going, but that's not really the point of this video. The point is that we've got Athel at level 46 currently, did manage to get her to 5 stars, and we are going to buy her first set of Masteries. Let's see here. You can take her down the support tree and pick up some good abilities here, but I kind of like some of the ones over here in the defense tree also. I don't remember exactly. That both of those actually can be helpful. I'll only go with that one. It's actually a good one for a campaign farmer, because it increases speed by 6 for each enemy killed, up to 18. It stacks across each round in a battle. So for campaign farming, that means that every time Athel she wipes out an entire row, she gets the plus 18 right then and there for the rest of the fight. Damage inflicted to targets with less than 40% HP by 8% is nice. And increased damage inflicted by 8% for the first hit on each enemy is also really nice. But I kind of like these two. When she starts getting a bit low on health, because sometimes when you're at the later stages of campaign farming, maybe you haven't gotten to 6 stars yet, and you just need that little extra push to get through. Sometimes that's what you need. Alrighty, so amount of healing and value of shield buffs, that's too situational. Also too situational. See, now this is one of those things where you kind of can, this one it increases damage when attacking with full HP. See, this one is good for campaign. This one is good for arena. And when you're first getting started, having a good solid nuker, that solid hitter for arena is really important. And they both can help in that situation if you get off the first hit. Because this one, it'll help anytime you're dealing with people using shield gear, which is very common. And this one will just help in general. So I think that's why most people and most guides recommend this one, because it's not situational. If you have full HP, you're always going to get that 5% boost to your damage. Same with this one. If you're under 50% hit points, you're always going to get 5%. Which is why, you know, they're both pretty good. Because, you know, it just depends on what you want to ensure you get that extra boost of damage from. Do you want it more often and later in fights? And in the case of Arena, a lot of times you're not even going to have a chance to fight back if you take the first hit. So that's why you always want to get that first hit when you have full hit points. But in the case of, again, say campaign farming, when, you know, like I was saying earlier about those later levels, same reason why you want to potentially get some healing back, this means you get that little extra push on damage in those later battles. So it just depends on, you know, where you want to put a little bit more emphasis. So in this case, though, for a campaign farmer and for an arena nuker, hitting first is just better. Alrighty. So now we can go over here. 50% chance to remove a random debuff when they lose 25% max HP, or heals by 6% of their max HP each time an enemy is healed, once per turn. See, and both of these can be useful. But here's my reasoning on this one, is that this happens anytime someone on the opposing side is healed. This only has a 50% chance to even happen, and it only happens if you lose 25% of your max HP or more from a single enemy skill, which isn't going to happen that often. Or when it does, it means that you're probably dealing with something that's going to kill you eventually anyway. It might be okay for clan boss, but again, you know, it's situational. Whereas this, you're far more likely to use far more often. Okay, then we can back over here. Damage inflicted to targets with stun, sleep, fear, true fear, freeze debuffs. 2 situational, and Athel does not put on any of those debuffs. 30% chance of decreasing cooldown of a random skill by 1 turn if the damage inflicted by a skill exceeds 30% of the target's max HP. Occurs once per turn. That's actually really good for campaign farming because it means that you can cycle through your abilities faster, which Athel already does. It means that you have a pretty reasonable chance of being able to use your big nuke with her sometimes every single round. Increases damage inflicted by 5% for each dead ally. Quite good for campaign farm. Because chances are pretty good that when you're doing your campaign farming, all of your allies are probably going to die in the first or second round anyway, which means by the time you get to the 3rd round, you've got that extra 10% damage, which can be considerable. And then increases damage inflicted by 6% when attacking targets with higher max HP. And that's actually a really good one for going up against clan boss, and in a lot of content in the game, because a lot of times the enemies that you come up against just have an enormous amount of hit points. So that one's really good. This one is really good for campaign farming. And then over here we had the reduces the damage this champion receives from a specific enemy by 0.75% with each hit taken from that enemy. Damage reduction stacks 6% for each enemy. This one is excellent for clan boss and any long fights with bosses. Increases ally resist by 5 for each buff placed on them by this champion. Completely useless on Athel, she doesn't do any buffs, so this is the clear choice here. 60% chance of placing a leech debuff for 1 turn when placing stun, sleep, fear, true fear, or freeze debuffs. Again, Athel doesn't do any of those debuffs, completely useless for her. So, which ones over here were the most useful? Again, she doesn't put any of those debuffs on, so useless. Can be quite good. Can be very good for campaign farming. And very good for most content in the game, honestly. So I'm going to go with that one. And while this one is very good, I'm going to go ahead and go with this one because it means that there's a chance that she can hit that nuke more often. And we come down here. Decreases damage an ally receives from the first enemy hit in each round by 20%. This champion will receive that damage instead. She's not a tank. 50% chance of increasing the turn meter by 15% when an ally is attacked with a critical hit. Will only increase the turn meter once if an ally receives multiple critical hits from a single skill. Situational. 50% chance to counterattack when this champion loses 25% of their max HP or more from a single enemy skill. Situational, but happens often enough, you know, especially when you're dealing with bosses. And your campaign farmer for a good deal of your gameplay will probably have lifesteal gear on. So while this is situational, that losing 25% of their max HP from a single enemy skill, as I said earlier, it's situational, and if you're losing that much of your hit points from a single hit, you're probably in a bit of trouble anyway. But it is really good for dealing with things like bosses, when it's going to be a lot more common for you to take a big chunk of your health from a hit, but then you're going to regain it by doing damage. And one of the ways you can do more damage is to counterattack. And also 20% chance to counterattack an enemy when they apply stun, sleep, fear, true fear, or freeze debuff on an ally. Again, it's situational, but it gives you a pretty good chance to hit a counterattack on a fairly regular basis. So I like picking up both of those. Okay, increased damage inflicted by 4% for each debuff on this champion. Stacks up to 12%. Not terrible, but again, situational. Places a shield buff on this champion for 1 turn when this champion kills an enemy. Value of the shield is equal to 15% of this champion's max HP, occurs once per turn. Not bad, depending on the situation, especially in campaign farming, for when, you know, you get into those later stages and you're killing 1 or 2 of the enemies, but there's 1 or 2 left and you want a bit of protection from the rebuttal, you know, the counterattack. Increased damage inflicted by 6% in the arena, 3% in all other locations for each enemy killed by this champion in battle. Stacks across each round in a battle up to 12%. Much better because it happens every single time, and as I said earlier, you're going to have a lot of kills through the 3 rounds of a battle. in campaign farming. Increases damage inflicted by this champion's default skill by 2% each time it is used during battle. Stacks across each round in a battle up to 10%. This one is also very good for boss fights. So this is one of those things that we used. Both of these ones would be quite good to pick up. But I wanted both of the counter skills. Here's the thing, Athel has 3 hits on her first skill, A1. So, when we get to 6 stars, we want to be able to pick up Giant Slayer, because it's a 30% chance of inflicting bonus damage when attacking. Bonus damage equal to 7.5% of target champion's max HP, or 3% of the target's max HP when attacking bosses. Bonus damage can occur on each hit of a skill, does not count as an extra hit. She hits 3 times. The rule of thumb for pretty much every single person I've seen that does guides, I've read quite a few guides and watched quite a few videos, is that if they do 1 or 2 hits, you want to go with War Master, because it can only occur once per skill and does more damage, whereas Giant Slayer can happen, it's less damage, 1% less, which actually is not very much less, and it can occur on every hit of a skill. I think, yeah, War Master also has a twice as much chance of hitting, which is the main reason why you want to go with that one on someone who has fewer hits. But with somebody that has 3 or more hits, in the case of somebody like, say, Foley, who gets in 4 hits on his base attack, you would definitely want to go with Giant Slayer. And in order to unlock Giant Slayer, we need one of these 3 here. So we're going to go ahead and go with Kill Streak, which is good because it does mean that yeah, it's just generally going to increase your damage. So that gives us access to Giant Slayer when we have it possible to unlock that. So we now have full masteries on Athel. Alrighty. So, obviously, if you're already a raid player, then you're gonna know all those things. But I just wanted to go over it for any potential new players that, for whatever reason, find this video instead of the many other far more established and more knowledgeable raid players out there. And obviously everybody has their preferences for how they like to play. A lot of the guides that I've seen on Athel actually recommend that you go down the support tree so that you get the weaken debuff placed more often, and there's a few of the other bonuses that you get from those masteries that are quite good. I just kind of like the defense masteries because it helps in both arena and in campaign farming, which is the #1 thing you're going to be using Athel for. It also gives her a lot of utility in boss fights and in clan boss until you can put together a team that's specialized for clan boss. But now it's time for the main attraction. It's a 2x chance, and I have accumulated 9 ancient shards from farming. But I'm going to go ahead, and even though there's no increased chance on the void chart, I'm going to go ahead and open all 10 of these just for fun to see what happens. So, fingers and toes crossed, let's see what we get. And actually not a bad start. Bellhound is a good champion. for a number of reasons, but it's mainly all about this skill. In fact, he's the best campaign farmer in the game, depending on how you spec him out, because attacks all enemies. 25% chance of placing a decreased speed debuff. Damage is based on defense and attack, which means that you can stack damage pretty heavily on him. And you're getting utility out of any speed, any attribute, either attack or defense, that you put on it. The A3, his aura is good for faction crypts only. His A3 is to put a block damage buff on an ally for a single turn, which situationally can be useful, but it's really all about his A2, which is, when you get him up to 3 stars, places a 7.5% continuous heal buff and a 15% reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns, which means that this makes him one of the best campaign farmers, if not the best campaign farmers in the game. This makes him a monster to go up against the Fire Knight dungeon, because it means every time the Fire Knight hits your team with this buff in place, he's going to take hits on his shield, and that means it's going to be that much easier to knock his shield down. So Fellhound, it's not a Cold Heart. Cold Heart would have been the pull from the first Void Shard, but still a good pull. So let's get to the Ancient Shards. Let's see some gold. Nope, I'm going to start with blue. But Fleshmonger, also not a bad pull. Has, when ascended, 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased debuff for 2 turns, attacks all enemies. That means that he is right up there with War Maiden. Increase attack, he increase critical rate buff on this champion for 2 turns and gives him an extra turn. Books to a 3-turn cooldown. That means he can hit pretty damn hard. Ally attack in dungeons up by 23%. Potentially useful. And attacks an enemy 3 times. Also good for Fire Knight. So we're already putting together potentially a very good Fire Knight team. Come on. Give us something hot. Arcanist, not the best pull. Attacks an enemy, 20% chance of placing a sleep debuff. It's only a single hit though. Continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. Books to a 3-turn cooldown. Makes her a pretty good healer. Increase attack buff and 15% increase crit rate buff on all allies for 3 turns. Books to a 4-turn cooldown, which means that when booked, you can keep the increased attack and crit rate up for pretty much an entire battle. Increase ally defense in arena battles by 25%, so she's actually pretty good as a arena defense champion. So, not terrible, but not great. And we've got our first epic, and it is Jerick, who I have never pulled before. So, attacks 1 enemy, has a 35% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns. Okay, very good for clan boss and other bosses. The decrease attack is really useful. Places 50% ally protection and a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. Books to a 4-turn cooldown. Also very good for clan boss. Passive. Places a 15% continuous heal buff on an ally for 1 turn whenever an ally loses 20% of their max HP in 1 hit. And there is no cooldown on this, which means that every time an ally takes a big hit, they get a continuous heal buff on them, which is very good for practically anything in the game, or anywhere in the game. So, Jerick, not a bad pull. Got another blue here. Ironclad, interesting champion. Can be very interesting nuker with his passive ability because hits all enemies with damage proportional to any surplus healing equal to 50% of that heal. Which means that because we've actually pulled a couple of healers that can put continuous heal buffs on, we could put together an interesting team with him. So, not the greatest pull, but an interesting one, especially with some of the other champions we've got. So we've got 5 left now. Come on, let's see something special here. Tormentor, not particularly good. Hits twice if it's a critical, and the extra hit is always a normal hit. Which I imagine the way this is coded, if it could potentially hit a critical on the second hit, it could potentially just keep hitting over and over again, which would actually make this amazing. But it would also be super overpowered because once you got it to 100% crit, then it would hit infinitely, which would break things. But you could actually make it to where, let's say, instead of it not having any chance to be a critical hit, you could they could change the coding on this so that it has like a 20% less chance to be a crit for every extra hit. Which means that you have a chance to get a nice chain attack going off, but it's only ever going to hit so many times, and would actually make him much better. Attacks 2 times at random. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a decreased accuracy debuff. Not terrible, but not one of the most important debuffs, and only hits 2 times. At one enemy 2 times, each hit has 50% chance of placing a block buffs debuff for 2 turns. Place a stun debuff for one turn if the target is under a block buffs debuff. So again, not completely useless, but it's also, again, he has no AoE hits and very situational, so not particularly good. Another epic. Awesome. We got Royal Guard. Okay, we didn't get Cold Heart, but we got Royal Guard. Alright, so one of the best boss nukers in the entire game because of this. Hits all enemies, damage increases according to enemy max HP. So he's an attack-based champion, not as good as a defense-based champion, which would probably be seriously overpowered. But that right there, damage is based on enemy max HP. Good grief, does he smack hard when you get him leveled up. And also has a lot of turn meter control. Hits 4 times at random, which means there's a chance you can hit everybody in arena. You can hit most of a team, an opposing team in, the waves of enemies. Each hit has 60% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns, which when you get later in the game, can be massive. Also has a 60% chance of decreasing target's turn meter by 25%. Again, that can be massive. And this books up to another 15% chance to occur, so that takes it to 75% chance of proccing on a 4-turn cooldown. The takedown is always going to be a 4-turn cooldown, but you can, it doesn't hit hard enough to one-shot bosses, but you can do so much damage. Increases ally attack in dungeons by 35%, so not a horrible aura. And his basic attack, 60% or 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. So it only hits one enemy, but good chance to decrease defense, and books up to, let's see there, that would be a 65% chance. So again, not the best chance to do this particular debuff, and that's really not what you want him for. It's really all about the A2. Alright, we still have 3 more. And we get Frozen Banshee. Basically the best, or one of the 2 best clan boss poisoners in the entire game, so we're getting some very nice pulls here. You know, we're not getting any legendaries yet. We still have 2 more chances, and the boost, the event to boosting pulls is going to be going on till Sunday, I believe. This is currently Saturday, so it'll be going till tomorrow, and I might get some more shards and we'll pull those later if I get some more. But increase ally accuracy all battles by 35 can be very useful. Places a 25% poison sensitivity debuff for 2 turns on a 5-turn cooldown, but books down to 3 turns. And poison sensitivity increases damage from poison. Fills turn meter of all allies by 2% for each debuff on the target. Usually you just kind of ignore this ability, but it's not a bad ability for other bosses. With clan boss, early on it's fine. Later on, when you get into speed tuning, and especially with the new AI, you know, you can set your teams to do certain, you know, to not use certain skills. You want to turn that off because it screws up your speed tuning. And basic ability, when ascended, hits 2 times. 80% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns if under a poison sensitivity debuff. Books up to a full 100% chance. So yeah, she hits super hard and does a ton of damage to clan boss. Alright, 2 more to go. Let's see what we're gonna get. Another rare, and it's Blood Mask. 1 hit has a 35% chance of decreasing target's turn meter by 10%. Okay, so that actually is not bad. It's only a 35% chance. 50% chance of placing a decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Only a 50% chance, only hits 1 enemy. But turn meter control, he's got quite a bit of that. Already requiring 13 books here. And that's a lot of books. 1 enemy, 75% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. Books up to 100%. 3-turn cooldown when booked. 3-turn cooldown when booked. So, some not terrible, I would say. There's some utility there. The ability to get some turn meter reduction, decrease speed, so good turn meter control on single enemies, and a chance to stun. This one's pretty much useless on his skill set, because these 2 would make him useful against certain bosses, but all the bosses are immune to stun, so this is useless. But he is also an HP based champion, which means you can stack hit points on him out the ass and make him tough as nails and get some utility out of him going up against bosses, but he might just be a blue chicken. Come on. Nope. And Rotting Mage. Speed and faction crypts by 13%, so some utility there. Hits one enemy, 25% chance of placing a freeze debuff. Places 25% increased attack buff on allies for 2 turns. Places a 30% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns. And 75% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. So yeah, not a very good champion. Unfortunately, that was the last pull. So, overall, a little disappointed that didn't get a legendary, but keeping in mind, even with a double chance for Ancient Shards, it's only a 1% chance. And we did pull 2 epics on a 16% chance with only 9 shards. That's actually pretty good. And we got some of the challenges cleared there. Might be able to clear some more of those. Let's see, we've got quite a few void potions, so let's see if we can get Fellhound up to 3, and we complete that one. Excellent. Upgrade a rare, epic, or legendary champion skill. We can do that one as well. Let's see here. Accumulated quite a few books, so let's just go ahead and book up Fellhound, because he's gonna definitely be the one that gets the focus going forward, because he's gonna be a massive boost on campaign progression. In fact, with Fellhound and some solid focus on Fellhound and Royal Guard, might even be able to complete campaign before the end of the event and have a couple of Sacred Shards, some more Void Shards, and Ancient Shards to open. Even though, of course, potential, shouldn't really open the shards without some sort of event going on, it's fun to do. So, do I want to go ahead and put books on Jerick or Royal Guard? Jerick, decrease attack is great. Oh, wow. Let's see if we can get Pack Leader. Nope. Yes, we got it. Alright, so we can put some more books on him later on, but we've got the cooldown on Pack Leader to get that down to 4 turns. So, not terrible there, and we can go ahead and put that other book on Royal Guard. And we even got the book on Takedown, which is where you want it, because you want to get that up to 4. Alright. So yeah, not too shabby at all. You win a campaign battle using 4 champions at level 40 or higher. Actually, I believe I can complete that one as well. Let's go up here. Let's see if maybe we can get through this. And yes, I do have both of those sister militants at level 40, and you'll see why. It's because they hit pretty damn hard. They hit everybody. Boom. All dead. And we complete that challenge as well and pick up another epic book. Alright, so Mr. Guardman, you're getting another book. Hamstring, not... Would have preferred more damage on takedown, but it's going to take quite a few books to get him finished out because he's one you... It's good to completely book him out. Alright, so yeah, not too bad at all. And we already picked up another one there. Let's see, are there any more of these we can do? 2 champions to level 3. I don't think I'd be able to do that one yet. Potions. No, I don't. No, just don't have enough potions. Don't have any more of the white ones. Yeah, arcane potions. I'm a little limited on gear right now, so that's probably going to be my next priority, is to farm up some more gear in addition to pushing further into campaign. But all in all, while we didn't get any legendaries, that was always a long shot anyway. We did pull Jerick, which seems to be, you know, just at a glance, a very good healer. You know, with Ally Protect, increased defense, this no cooldown passive that anytime an ally takes a big hit, they just get a heal buff on them. And I mean, that's great for anywhere in the game, really. And decrease attack debuff on his A1, which again, that's great for any boss. Royal Guard, one of the best epics in the game in terms of going up against bosses. I mean, he's one of the most, if not the most sought after epics in the game, so pulling him is amazing. You know, if you have 2 Royal Guards, or if you have a Royal Guard and a Cold Heart, bosses become so much easier. So, I mean, that's just an amazing pull right there. Fellhound, especially for early game, pulling him to put him in there as a second champion to go through with Athel for campaign farming to 3-star campaign and get through all the campaign content. That's Fellhound is just an amazing pull. Banshee, amazing pull for doing clan boss. I mean, that's just awesome right there. Ironclad, an interesting pull, as I said, especially when we got a couple of champions here. Arcanist with a continuous heal buff on all allies. We got Jerick with his healing abilities. Fellhound also does continuous heal in addition to the reflect damage. Monger. Actually, you know, Ironclad with Fellhound and Arcanist, those 3 together with Royal Guard and Jerick, probably would, you know, that's potentially a very, very good Fire Knight team, because Ironclad is going to be doing an extra hit every single turn at the beginning of its turn, as long as he has full hit points and is going to be healing, because you can also put regeneration gear on him or immortal gear, so he heals up every single turn. And then you get those continuous heal buffs on him from Arcanist, Fellhound, and Jerick. And I mean, he's just going to be hitting constantly. And then we got Monger, who is right up there with War Maiden, is a really good AoE decreased defense hitter. Let's see, only books up to 75% chance, though, that he's not as good as War Maiden, because I believe she books out to a 100%, will always get it as long as their accuracy is high enough. But it's still a good ability. Increasing attack and increasing crit rate on the entire team. Or no, it only does it on himself. Sorry. But still good for single target attacks. And hits 3 times. So he would be a good one also to be in there against Fire Knight. Because that 3-hitter. And also, he would not be too bad as an aura leader because a pretty big boost to ally attack. So yeah, we have some pretty good options. We have basically a Fire Knight team ready to go right there. And we also have some really good options for Arena. And, you know, just content in general. I mean, we've got an amazing duo right there for campaign farming to push really far into campaign and potentially complete it early. So yeah, a couple of duds. Tormentor, Rotting Mage, not particularly good. Not very useful. Blood Mask, some utility there, but not particularly good. But other than that, we got some really nice pulls. I am very happy with it. You know, it would have been nice to get a legendary. But at this point, trying to book out and fully level up and book out legendary is going to be, or would be difficult, especially since I'm going to be getting Ninja in just a few days anyway. So one way or another, going to be getting a legendary on this account. And even though some players have less than favorable opinions about Ninja and the entire collaboration and whatnot, Ninja, the champion Ninja, is actually amazing against bosses. I mean, the simple fact that within 7 days of playing the game, when you get Ninja, you can put some gear on him, get him leveled up a little bit, put him in your clan boss team, and can substantially increase the amount of damage output you're doing on clan boss in order to get those extra rewards early for a new player. It cannot be denied how much of a boost that is to your account. And he's not bad as an early arena champion. He's good against all the bosses. I mean, except Spider. He's not useful very much against Spider, but every other boss, until you get to some of the ones in Doom, specifically Magma Dragon, because I believe HP Burn heals the Magma Dragon, but because of the AI control, you can turn that ability off. So even against Magma Dragon, he's useful. No, he's a boss killer. Oh, yeah. I'm very happy with that, with those results. Those were really nice pulls. Other things going on here with faction. Already was able to get up to stage 6 of faction with those two the sister militants there. Yeah. I'm a bit sleepy, so moving a bit, you know, the brain's a bit sluggish. But you see what I mean? I mean, they just smack. They smack hard. Well, not gonna get the 2 stars. I mean, I just threw them in there to see if could get the 3 stars rather. I have absolutely no worries whatsoever that they wouldn't get through the level because they've already done it. But yeah, don't dismiss common champions, because early game they can give you a little boost in certain areas because of the one thing that makes them undesirable for later in the game, but does make them desirable in some ways, is that they are simple. You know, Sister Militant hits everybody. The Preacher, one hit, 25% chance of placing a 25% decrease attack debuff. Okay? It's a low chance, but if you don't have any other champion that can do a decrease attack debuff, going ahead and putting her in some solid defensive gear and with high accuracy and putting her on your clan boss team means that you have a chance every time she attacks of putting decreased attack on there for a turn. It's only one turn, but that's one turn that he's gonna do that much less damage to you. The Axeman hits one enemy, 30% chance of placing a 25% decrease accuracy debuff for a turn, and his damage is proportional to defense. Decrease in accuracy isn't a big deal, but being a defense-based champion, you can put him in good gear, stack defense up the ass on him, and you have somebody that's going to be able to tank for you and do some solid hits, if you don't have anybody else that can fill that role. And because he only has that one skill, it only needs 4 books, and he's a common, you're gonna have no trouble whatsoever getting his skill boosted up to full power. Same with all the commons, and the uncommons as well. Elfguard, 2 skills to worry about. You only need 11 copies of Elfguard, and you can get plenty of them. I mean, you get loads of copies of her just farming stage 6, I think it is. The one where you get speed gear. Impale, decreased turn meter by 50%. Does not have any chance to fail. It's on a 3-turn potential, when booked, 2-turn cooldown. 50%, that means that she's just as good as Armiger. Okay, maybe not just as good, but close to it. But actually, I would make the argument, and I watched a video, I believe, now I'm blanking on who did the video. It might have been Hell Hades. I think it was. He was talking about one of the Doom Tower bosses. But she doesn't have to have 100% crit rate to be effective. As long as she has the accuracy, which is something you have to have on Armiger as well, she's going to hit with this. And when booked, 2-turn cooldown, which means that if you have 2 or 3 of her against a boss, they're never going to get a turn. And also, 25% chance of placing a 25% decrease attack debuff, which means that she has the same ability as Preacher, only it's on her it's on her basic skill. And that makes her very useful. Outrider can put a decreased defense debuff on a boss. It's a single enemy. Usually attack one enemy skills are best against bosses. Fire arrow hits an enemy, decreases enemy max HP by 15% of the damage dealt. If you don't have anybody else that can do this for you, booking him out, because it's again 2-turn cooldown, you can put him in some halfway decent gear, get him leveled up, and when you're going through Doom Tower and you get to, I believe it's the Scarab is the one that you have to have somebody that can decrease its HP, this guy can do some work for you there. Salvo hits all enemies on a 3-turn cooldown, so nothing special about this, but he's an uncommon champion that has 3 skills, all of which are useful. Brute, 2 times at random, 50% chance of placing a 5%, that's a big poison debuff for a turn, if it's critical. Less useful. Rip and Tear, 1 enemy, extra 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit. That's actually pretty nice because it means that you only have to get him to 70% to always crit with this one, but you get him up to 100% crit, and that means that every time he hits with his basic attack, 2 times at random, which means that against Clan Boss, you get him up to 100%, and you have a chance to put 2 5% poison debuffs on Clan Boss every single round, because you can just turn this one off. Frozen Fist has a chance to put a freeze debuff on an enemy, and depletes an ally's turn meter, but heals that ally, so not particularly good. And another one, attacks an enemy, has a 50% chance of decreasing the turn meter by 20%. This one books up to a 75% chance to occur. Not as good as Armiger or as Elfguard, really, because this is only up to a 75% chance. And it also is on a 4-turn cooldown, so not a very good uncommon there. Let's check out Chemist. Hits 2 times. Hits 1 enemy. Stun debuff. Very low chance though. But increases if the target's HP is low, so again, not good. Freeze. Decrease accuracy, so Skellig, not particularly good. Incubus. Small chance to do 2 hits, 3 hits at random. Resets the cooldown on this skill if the target is killed. So, potentially for campaign and wave clearing, there's some potential there. But for the most part, you're just going to get tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of this guy when you're farming or grinding out campaign. Incubus is going to be one of the most common, if not the most common, food champions you're going to have through playing the game. So in that case, he is absolutely essential to gameplay. Incubus is the MVP of every account in the entire game, simply because you will grind out so many copies of him that he is going to feed every single champion in some capacity. He will be involved in getting all of your champions, or the majority of them at least, to level 60. Crusader attacks one enemy 2 times, and Rally attacks one enemy with one random ally. The ally joining the attack use their default skill. This could book down to 2 turns. Honestly, if you want to see something that's kind of funny, get an entire team of 5 of these guys, and you don't want to take them up too high. That would be way too many resources, but getting 5 of them up to level 3 or 4 even later on when you've got campaign completed isn't that difficult. And just take them against Fire Knight, because, you know, again, you're not going to get late levels. I mean, potentially you could take it as far as you want. It's just that because he hits 2 times on his A1, and because of this attacking with a random ally, that means that with 5 of these guys all going up, you know, Fire Knight knocking down the shield becomes nothing. So, yeah, I mean, it's not the most efficient team necessarily, but it is it can be funny to watch a bunch of these guys, just every single one of them, one after the other, ally attack, and just the Crusader swarm. It's kind of amusing. See, Old Beer, 25% chance of placing a 25% decrease attack debuff again. Decrease attack is good against bosses. Very useful. 50% chance of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns. Okay, early on, Old Beard can be very useful against clan boss and other bosses. Leech is really good for helping to keep your team alive, and so is decreased attack. Those are 2 very good abilities on an uncommon champion. He isn't going to hit him every single time he goes, but if you don't have anybody else that can do that for you, you always have Old Beard. Tracker. Chance of putting a poison debuff, very small chance though. And small, you know, 20% chance of placing decreased defense debuff. So, not particularly good. So I'm not saying that all the uncommon champions and common champions are useful, but situationally, and if you early on in your gameplay, if you don't have anybody else to fill those roles, sometimes there are, you know, an uncommon or even a common champion can get the job done for you. And let's face it, Saurus is a really good campaign farmer and wave clearer. He's also good against some of the bosses that heal a lot because he has that heal reduction debuff. And against Doom Tower, sometimes, you know, you have waves that rely heavily on healing. You run into those teams in Doom Tower because he has, you know, that debuff, the reduce healing debuff can hit the entire enemy team, can be useful there. And Shield Guard, of course, when you put him in the right gear, get him booked out, and the right masteries on him, can do some crazy things. Because of the way his, the one skill he has can refill his turn meter. You know, if you get him going fast enough, and the right gear on him and everything, you can just get so many hits off with him in a row. It can be pretty silly. And of course, Armiger. You know, an uncommon that his A1 on a critical hit reduces the turn meter of the target by 50%. And his A2, he not only has a boost to damage based on enemy hit points, which means that he's the uncommon version of Royal Guard, basically. But also blocks revives, which means that, you know, having a couple of Armigers on your Ice Golem team can be incredibly helpful for getting rid of the helpers, the 2 minions. So yeah, if you're a newer player, or even if you've been playing for a while and you've just completely dismissed all commons and uncommons as being useless, don't. Actually take a look at some of their abilities. You know, even like Sniper, she is the first champion you get other than your starter champion. Double shot, hits an enemy 2 times, extra 15% chance of inflicting a critical hit, and fills this champion's turn meter by 15% on each critical hit. That means that when you get her critical rate up to 100%, which I haven't done on her yet because, you know, I still need to farm some gear, she is going to get 2 critical, you know, actually you only need her up to 85%. You don't need her at 100, only 85% for this to work. She will hit 2 crits every single time that she uses her basic ability, and she will get another 30% turn meter for doing that, which means that she goes fast. Get her in fast gear with high crit rate, and she's gonna snap them off. And of course, Rain of Arrows hits all enemies 2 times, 10% chance of placing a 15% decreased speed debuff, which is a small chance, but books up to 30%. Also, can get it down to a 3-turn cooldown, which is nice, and gets a full, what is that, yeah, 30% damage increase when fully booked out. And as an uncommon champion, she's very easy to book because you can just use duplicates of her, which you will get lots of. So yeah, don't be dismissive of your uncommon champions and even commons. So we look at Ranger. Decreased speed and hits all enemies. Yeah, hits 1 enemy, 20% chance of placing a 15% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns, and has a A2 that hits all enemies. So, not too bad for a champion that you can get anywhere as a common. 6,000 silver, you can pick her up in the shop and book her out real easy. You can get that multi-shot on a 2-turn cooldown, which means basically every other turn she's going to be hitting everybody. You know, like I said, don't be dismissive of lower level champions, because sometimes they can do some work for you. You also don't have to worry about putting potions to ascend common champions, because they can't be ascended. You know? I mean, it means that they'll never get any of the stat boosts from Ascension. But it also means you save resources. So, let's see. That one's going to be easy. Getting an artifact to level 16. Doable. But it's going to takes a lot of silver to do that. Let me know if you feel this way yourself. I mean, I made this video. I'm going to be uploading it practically right after I finish recording it. So 8/21/21. Do you feel like very recently it has become much harder to level up artifacts? It's just for the last few days, I have every single, I have a few different accounts that I play on with differing levels of, I have a main account that I put most of my time into, and then I have these other accounts that I play on. This one I put a lot of effort into because I wanted to do the video series for it. But anyway, it's like every single time over the last week or so that I've been trying to level up artifacts, it has just felt so much harder. I have just had, even just getting to level 12 for an artifact, it just seems to chew up so much silver. Maybe I've just been unlucky, but let me know if you think, so August of 21, the last, during this month, maybe since the last update, which would make it the most obvious point, tell me if you feel like they've made it less likely that artifacts are going to level, if they've made it harder to level up artifacts so that you chew through more silver. As if silver wasn't a big choke point, pain in the ass in the game enough as it is. Like not almost, but since they made it, since you can get extra silver from campaign from this, that they've made it more difficult to level up artifacts and just generally made it so that you're going to chew through silver, basically trying to make it so that they didn't actually improve anything. But that could just be anecdotal, and it could also be a confirmation bias. It just, though, lately it has felt much harder to level up my artifacts. So if you're watching this video and you've been playing in the month of August, thereabouts in 2021, whenever you happen to watch this video, and if this is in the future, if you can recall to this period, tell me how your experience with leveling your artifacts has been or was in this time period, because again, to me it feels like they've made it less likely for them to upgrade. I just feel like I've been chewing through silver more than, I've only been playing the game a few months, but it feels like over the last, little while, I have chewed through a lot more silver than I was previously. So let me know how your experiences have been. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your view. And I would also appreciate it if you could like the video if you did enjoy it. Subscribe so you know when I put up new videos. Leave some comments. And share the video because it helps the channel grow. YouTube's algorithms pay attention to all that stuff. And, the more activity on the video there is, the more likely YouTube is to put it in, recommended lists and things. So all of that is highly appreciated, but of course, your view is the most important thing, because I want people to watch the videos, otherwise I wouldn't make them. I do also have a Patreon account that you can check out, as well as other links in the description that you can look at and go to if you feel inclined. And one more time, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. See you later.